Hi, I'm Elaine. I'm going to give you an example of Unix and Linux file and directory manipulation, covering these areas. File names are ASCII characters, shouldn't have spaces, they're case sensitive, they don't need an extension, and file names with a dot are special files. You need the -a option in ls. We're going to look at absolute paths that start from the root, relative paths that start from where your current directory is. We're also going to look at the dot, which is the alias to the current directory, and the dot for the previous. Here are some different commands that you're going to be looking at: cd, pwd, ls commands, touch, cat and rm for removing a file. There's a number of different commands there. Here's some examples. pwd to show the current directory that you're in, ls to show the files. And you can make a change to a directory using cd as shown. ls-l gives you a lengthy listing, and the I gives you the inode value, so that's the unique identifier for each file. As you can see there, you've got the dot and the dot, which are actual files, and if you have a look there, you can see that 2887536 corresponds to the directory that we're currently in. So if you look at that, we're currently in that directory called test_fld, and that relates to the dot when you're inside it. So that's an alias, and that's where the link count will be set to 2. Going to look at a few more commands. cd, change to a test folder, and use the touch command to create a file. They're empty files, but they're quite useful when you're doing some demonstrations or testing. It's always handy to be able to just quickly create a test file. So another way to create a test file is to type in the text in quotes and then filter it out to another file, which is what I'm doing now. So that's putting some text into those files there. You'll see those files now will have some content. When you do ls-l again, you'll see that they have content, but when you cat, you can concatenate all of those files and display the output on the screen, or you can actually concatenate them and filter the output into a new file, which is what's happened there. I'm going to append to that by using the double greater than sign, and now you can have a look at that file. Just as an example, I'm using the more to display the content in that case. I'm going to put a lot more in there just to build it up and show you a comparison between using cat to display on the screen and more. More gives you an option to scroll through it or press spacebar to move through the file, whereas cat doesn't. Differentiation between the two, and you can use tail to just give you the last so many lines of the file. So we've covered those things already. So the next thing is to remove a file. You haven't seen that yet. You just simply use rm to remove, and there you can see it's gone. So if you remove TE star, that will remove everything. I'll be careful with that because obviously that's lost all my files now, but I kind of knew I was doing that, that's fine. But just be careful. So I've now got to make them all again, just for the purpose of this test. Just be careful with the rm command. Try and use -i if possible, which will ask you for whether you're sure. So I'm going to just run that to show you. I'm going to get rid of the odd number files. So I'll just have 2 and 4 on there. So that's everything on there. And now the different ls commands that I've just been showing you: -a with all files, -f, -r and -t. So -lt will give you them in time order, and we need to go back to show you a recursive listing. That shows you all of the folders and their contents in the current directory. And ls-f will show you the / on the end of a directory or a folder. You can see when you do ls-l, you can see the directories and the different owner and user groups and permissions and so on and so forth. This was creating a symbolic link so you can create an alias to the file. So I have new test, which is equal to test. They're the exact same inode table, so they're pointing to the same file. So when you run new test, it just run test. They're the same thing. Okay, so they amount to the same file now. If you change the file, so I'm just going to reduce the counter down so it loops around only 100 instead of a huge number. So now when you compile it, you're going to overwrite test, but you'll still have the original link file. So you need to know about those things as well. So if you rebuild a system, that's still what it was before, pointing to the old inode, but test is now a new file, as you can see, 271 at the end. So they're not the same, so it's quite difficult for me to highlight these. That's the one I want to highlight. So when you run new test, that's the old program, and when you run test, it's the new program. So what you have to do is remove the link to it and recreate it. And you would know there's a link count because you can see the 2 against the file name. Sorry, you don't see that because it was a different file until you removed it and recreated it. And now you'll see the 2 next to it. You'll see it has a link count of 2, and now it's going to the correct file. So you need to check things like this when you're doing system maintenance and development, when you overwrite files that have links to them. So this is creating a symbolic link. It's exactly the same thing, but it's a symbolic link, so it's also connecting to the test file, but it has its own inode entry, so it doesn't matter what happens to test. If you change it, it will still link to that. And finally, a quick summary of the ls command, just showing us the permissions, and they correspond to the data in the etc password file. So if you have a look at your current your home directory, is when you press CD, that tells you what it is, and PWD tells you what the name is, and there you go, it's pointing at home Elaine. Trying to highlight it, but it's a little bit difficult. Never mind, it's just awkward. So my home is home Elaine, and my account is Elaine, my user, and my group is also Elaine by default. You can change that, of course. You can add yourself to different groups if required. So the home directory are files that I'm allowed to do what I like with, as well as the super user. So I'm just doing some more ls commands, ls-a, to show you those hidden files in my home directory. So it's now down to copying files, different copying mechanisms. I'm going to make myself a directory there to have a play with, using the mkdir command to make a directory, and that's wrong, I've put an underscore there. So take away the underscore, mkdir, the name of the directory. Just going to show a few little things to do with copying. So there's nothing in there, need to echo a few files in there, echo some text into some files, so make a few files with some content, and there they are. And then I'm going to copy or try to copy everything in copy test to copy test 2, and you'll see that it copies the directory as well, so it's not as good. I didn't mean to do that. Let me go back and there were too many files in that directory, so let me just go into them. It's a lot easier by ls on the actual directory name. And then, as you can see, if you go into copy test 2, it's actually put the whole directory inside it, which is not ideal. So you'll see some more examples in a moment. Just going to try a couple of other little things, show you that. So imagine I want to copy everything to a new directory. Well, I can't, I need to make it first. Again, just showing you I have to make it first, so it won't create it and then copy into it. So what it's done now, it's tried to copy everything into new test, and there it is. That's a good way of doing it if you want everything to be copied and not the directory itself. So I've removed everything now, and that's the next command is to rename things using MV. So we've looked at CP and RM, we're now going to do MV. So I'm just going to show you how to rename some files. MV, the original file name, to the new file, which is quite straightforward. MV for move. And finally, I've just shown you an RM, so a bit more on the remove, delete. So the DOS command is DL, and if you use I there with start, then it will ask you which ones you want to get rid of. So remember that, that's quite useful. Just trying to find an example to make some more files a lot quicker than typing it all in every time. So I have some more files there. So if I issue test, and then I just want to have *2, so anything with a 2, and then you can make directories, remove the contents, copy from one to another as shown, and move from one to another. So I'm just removing a directory, but obviously if it's not empty you can't do that, but if you use rm-r then it will empty it and get rid of the directory as well, as you can see here. If you want to copy test2 to just copy test, use -r, or copy test1, sorry, and you'll see that they are the same, because if you use ls on those directories you'll see they're exactly the same. So the -r actually makes it possible to copy one and everything inside it across. And then these final few commands here, just to finish off. So we've done the file command, just going to go into a directory where there's some useful files in there. So you can see the test is executable binary, the original is ASCII text. You can use more, you can use cat. Remember, more gives you the option to spacebar, so you can show a page at a time. Word count, to look at how many lines there are in a file, or how many characters, or how many words, just as an example. You can see the default is lines. So that's it. To summarize the commands, and thank you for watching.